Hey guys, good evening. I hope I'm pretty much audible as well as visible. I welcome one and all, so whoever is part of our chat today. So, as discussed, we'll be talking about the Numpy array functions. Okay, so in our last discussion, so we were talking about some of the other NumPy functions. So today we're gonna finish all of our remaining NumPy functions. So they're not too much, so we're gonna be covering them. Right. So, but again, I again welcome one and all present in the chat today. So we are meeting after a long time. So we had a break of around I think a week or 10 days. So I was again a bit occupied in some of the other things. But again, so we can resume. So meanwhile, I'll always encourage if anybody has any other questions from our previous lectures, from the discussions which we had regarding our other functions or anywhere also like from wherever you want to talk about. So please feel free to reach out to me. So I'm always monitoring the chat, so we can take up the questions as it comes. But as part of our today's agenda, we'll be talking about the NumPy functions. So the remaining NumPy functions, we're going to finish that today. So I think the last class we started with some of the string functions. So we're going to be talking about them, and then I'm gonna cover the remaining rest all functions as well. Okay, so as stated, please do reach out to me on chat. So I'm monitoring the chat. So if anybody has any questions from anywhere, from our previous lectures or even from other topics also, so please drop in your questions so we can take them as it comes. Right. But before that, as always, just a quick round of introduction. So as you know, my name is Arpit Jain. I'm a senior data scientist myself, and I have almost 9 years of industry experience. I've been working into multiple domains. Along with that, also I'm a motivational speaker. So I talk to students, I talk to candidates regarding their jobs, regarding their careers. So if any confusion regarding their job or future things, so do let me know your questions. So I mean, if any questions regarding data science also, right? So I've been hearing this quite a lot of times that people are confused, like how to switch into data science and all that. So any questions in that regard as well, do let me know so we can take up those questions. But again, as part of our playlist, so we're going to be covering 3 subjects as for now, and we have few more planned up, so that I'll be revealing when the time is right. But right now we are talking about Python, SQL, and data science. So Python we have already started about 3 months back, so we have covered quite a lot of things there. SQL also started about a month and a half back, so we are now into problem solving. So we are doing the problem solvings live over the weekend. So that's what we do in SQL. Data science also we have started, so we have another stream for Python for data science. So in fact, data science is clubbed with Python, and we are talking about a lot of interesting things in data science as well. But again, yeah. So just to give you an update, so not tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to be concluding most of the things in NumPy. And then day after tomorrow, we're going to be starting from data science. So we have lined up things as natural language processing. So I'll be talking about NLP or natural language processing on text. So I'll be covering from scratch, and then I'll be talking about how you're going to implement that. So basically, the package in Python is NLTK. So I'll be talking about that in details of what are functions available. How can you create your own natural language processing system on your own local host. So I'll be talking about all of those things. So that's coming from day after tomorrow. But anyway, coming back. So okay. So I have one question. So maybe let's take that. So Rajkumar said, "What is the best tool used for data analysis?" Okay, good question. So okay. So first of all, I would say that data analysis is what you think of your own data, right? So it's purely your perception, right? So primitively, like things have been working around on Excel. So before the actual AIML space, people were actually doing the data analysis part on Excel, right? So that is still ongoing. So the data size is quite small and you have the flexibility to use Excel. So you have all the primitive functions available in Excel. So that's a very, very basic tool, I would say, which you can use. But yeah, so I will talking about the advanced parts, like all the statistical computations and also if you want to do that, and some of the advanced visualization skills. So definitely some of the coding platforms you need, right? So that is something which can be performed on the coding languages, right? So coding languages, again, there are multiple options. Python is most prominently used, right? And on top of that, R, SAS again are of equal importance. But I says Python is what most prominently used. If you talk about specifically on tool, so again for visualization we have Tableau, but it's again not open source, so it's costly. So a student version is free, but again, for organization's perspective, it's a bit expensive. So Tableau, Power BI, ClickView. I mean, open source is Kibana, so Kibana is also pretty much used. I have not used SSRS, to be honest. I'm not sure of it. So, I mean, again, as I said, so there are multiple. Even I have heard about NIME. There's something called as analytics. So there are a lot of inbuilt in-house tools also, right? So there are many tools, such tools. So, but again, my recommendation for you would be to not rely on any tools, because tools are, I would say, very. I mean, if you're dependent on any tool, right? What if that tool is out of the market? Your job is in stake, right? So do not depend on any tool to get your job done. Rather depend on your skills, right? For example, statistics is a skill, right? Python is a skill. So focus on skills. Do not focus on any of the tools. Tools you can learn when depending on your company's requirement, organization's requirement, right? So every organization might be having a different tool altogether. So you can focus on tool once you are into any organization. But before that, I would request to focus on skills rather. Right. Okay, one more question. How do you directly access read files stored in Htfs using Python, rather copying files from SDFS to your local file system and then reading them? Okay, another question. How do you directly access read files, okay, stored in SDFS using Python? Okay, so maybe I can take this up when I'm gonna be covering a big data part. Right, so Vijit, so we can take it that part. So maybe I'll show it to you around. So it will be a bit tricky for you to explain it right now. So I have the big data component, even the Hadoop and HDFS part to be planned. So this is one of the subject which I'm planning for maybe next 2 weeks. So 2 to 3 weeks after, I'm gonna be starting another stream of HDFS. So I believe that question will be more relevant in that stream. So we'll take it then. Maybe if you have any question, you can connect me offline. So we'll discuss that question. So because that is not relevant for this session. So I hope you can understand that. Okay, so another thing, Parak, yeah, so SQL, yeah, again, I'm really sorry. I was supposed to join SQL classes this weekend, I mean, yesterday and day before yesterday, but there was some family work, so I was occupied in that. So it was a planned session, but unfortunately, I couldn't join that, and I had to get them cancelled last moment, so we couldn't have those classes. I'll try to organize this again, definitely this weekend. So as per the schedule, so timings might be different. So I might not be joining at 10 a.m. At the regular SQL timings, but maybe towards the end of the day, so towards maybe 9 p.m. I have a few things lined up over the weekend, so I'll take care of that. So I will definitely be updating you in my streams, like maybe tomorrow and day after tomorrow in our Python stream itself, about the timings for SQL maybe over the weekends. It should ideally be towards 9 p.m. Even on the weekends, so Saturday, Sundays. So we're gonna be doing the classes, but definitely there'll be classes for SQL this weekend as well. So to answer you, okay, coming back again to introduction, guys. So I'll just quickly wrap up the introduction and the basic promotions, and then we're gonna jump to the content, right? So please bear with me for that. Okay, coming back. So you have this code right in front of your screen, which is Python 10. So if you're gonna use this code Python 10, guys, so you're gonna have a free Relevel sample test paper. So why Relevel and why it is important? So as I've been telling that, so many times candidates do miss out on the great opportunities, and due to multiple reasons. It could be like they don't have a better degree, or they have a poor networking, so they don't know the right people to get a job from. Also, the resumes through which the candidates are applying are not standing out from those 100 other applicants for the same job, right? So there could be some issue in the resume, or there's something else which is beyond your control, right? And also you're applying for a number of jobs, maybe 50, 60, or even 100 odd jobs. Still, you're not getting even a single call. Very practical problem. Everybody faces that, trust me on that. But again, to tackle these issues only, Relevel has been introduced by Unacademy, which is the India's first test hiring platform, which is helping you to get your dream job, right? So here you are purely dependent on your skills and talent, and you're not dependent upon any sort of degree or any networking on that per se, right? So it is purely on your skills and your knowledge. So how does it work? So it's more of a testing platform where you will be asked some of the odd questions, right? So I mean, it's more of a platform where you have to choose the right the stream which you want to be part of, and then you have to get through an assessment. And the only expectation here is to score the best marks out of this assessment, right? So if you're skilled enough, if you're knowledgeable enough, so you'll be definitely getting the better scores. And only dependent on these scores, the companies will start reaching out to you. So it's more of the vice versa situation. So you'll not be running around here and there for your uh, jobs. It's like once you have given the test, the companies will start reaching out to you based on your scores, right? So there are certain other benefits also involved if you participate in this Relevel testing platform. So right now, at least 50 plus companies are hiring directly from the Relevel. That includes the top startups and even the unicorns like Upgrad, Cred, Razorpay, Urban Company, ENY, and many more, right? And there are at least 1,000 plus open job positions right now across 3 different portfolios: business development, front end, and the back end development, right? The good thing is you can, this is completely online actually, so you can take this from the comfort of your home. So you're not supposed to be actually physically present anywhere for your job, for your assessment. So you can take this from the comfort of your home totally. This is completely free, guys. So you're not supposed to pay even a single penny from your pocket to attempt this test. So this is completely free. So the only expectation is, since I've told you there are multiple rounds, so the expectation is to finish all the rounds in a single day, right? So that's something which is expected out of you. And the score, once you've given the test, the Relevel score will be revealed within a week's time, right? And yes, so there are certain other goodies involved. So if you are one of the top scorers in a particular category in a month, you will be rewarded with some exciting goodies as well, which includes MacBook, iPhone, and all that. But again, at least there is a minimum criteria. So you have to score at least 70% out of this assessment, right? So right now it's for 1,000 marks. So 700 is a basic minimum requirement. So 700 you are getting. So then you'll be able to create your candidate profile, and anything on top of that is going to be the cherry on the cake, right? And if you still, if you're not getting the right score, maybe not the qualifying score, right, you can reattempt the test again. But again, that reattempt is only possible after, I would say, 30 days of your first attempt, right? So that's you have to keep in mind. So with this Relevel, guys, you're in a unique position to invite interest from companies instead of hunting for your own opportunities, right? So once you're given the test, you can just sit back and relax. The companies will start reaching out to you once your Relevel score has been revealed. Registration on this platform is also quite easy, guys. So you have the link available on the YouTube description. So once you have clicked on that link, the first thing it will ask you to choose the test of your choice. As I've said, there are 3 different portfolios: business, front-end, and the back-end development. Multiple roles available within these, like sales associate, customer engagement associate in business development, Angular developer, web developer in front-end, software engineer, backend engineer, data engineer in backend development. So depending on the role which you want to be part of, you can select the test. Next thing is they'll ask you to choose the date of your test, right? So the test date. So slots are limited because it's a beta platform, as I've said. So I would request you to book it fast. So you can choose the test date of your choice. The very last thing it'll expect you to fill up your admit card details, as in your full name, email ID, birth year, current state, along with that your gender. And at last you have an option of promo code. So in this promo code, you can use the code Python 10, which I was talking about earlier. So if you're going to use the code Python 10, you're going to unlock your bonus sample test paper for Relevel, right? So you're going to get a bonus sample test paper, and this sample test paper is going to be the replica of the question which is expected out of you from that particular portfolio assessment, right? So do not forget to use the promo code. So once you have done that, you should be able to see a practice tab on your home screen, the dashboard, and here you should be able to see the sample test paper, right? So you can download the sample test paper and definitely practice this at the comfort of your time and space. So, and then you can be ready for your D-Day. So you can just give your best in your examination. So guys, do at least register for your Relevel today. So I don't see a problem in registering, right? So it's anyway completely free. So you're not going to pay even a single penny for this. So registration is quite simple, and I would request you to at least try it for once. If you feel that you're not getting benefited, you can definitely take your decisions elsewise, but at least give it a shot for once, right? It's anyway completely free. And also along with that, we have an official Telegram channel. Again, the link is there in the description. So do not forget to join this channel. So it's an official channel where you'll be getting all the live updates for the upcoming schedules, right? So you will not be running around here and there for your classes. So you can directly join this channel and get all the live updates for your classes. With this, guys, I would request you to at least subscribe and like the video. So if you feel that you're getting benefited, the least which we can ask you to do is at least do press the like button for the videos, right? So with this, guys, we are into our content slide. So we are talking about Python scripting. So we are talking about Numpy functions. So I'll directly jump to the codes. So yes, Naman. Yeah, ठीक है वो I am really sorry for that, but again this is mandatory promotion यार. I cannot help with that. For me it's also not quite happening, but I have to take care of it. Yeah? It's a mandatory promotion. Right, so I'm coming back to my just a minute, I'm opening the browser. So now this is not loading up, just a minute. Just give me a minute, guys. I'm facing some technical challenges. Yeah, I hope my screen is visible now. Right. Cool. So I hope, yes, my screen is pretty much visible. I'm really sorry for the delay. So I was facing some technical challenges there. So I got that sorted. I'm still seeing some issue in the alignment. I hope this should be fine. Right. Cool. Hey Sandeep. Again, guys. Okay, so I think it's pretty much sorted now. So I think it looks like it's good for me. Okay, yeah, so in the last class, we were talking about some of the string functions in NumPy. I remember, so we quickly ran through it, so because we were running short of time. So I'm gonna quickly give a recap for the string functions, and then we're gonna cover the remaining manipulative functions and also some of the arithmetic functions. So we're gonna cover it today. So again, if anybody has any questions, so do put up your question in the chat box. So I'm gonna take that. But again, as I said, so again, guys, it's a very important questions that it's one of the most frequently asked questions in the interview that does NumPy also cater strings? So most of the people are in the mindset that NumPy is purely for numbers, right? And it is having arrays of numbers, and all the manipulative functions or the arithmetic functions are being happening on numbers. But to your surprise, NumPy is the what are arrays first? As I've always talked about, array is a data type which can hold a single data type, right? Right. So for this single data type, it's important to understand that this data type can be of multiple things, right? This data type can be a number and can also be string, but it has to be homogeneous. So the arrays cannot have multiple data types in a single array format. For example, it cannot have numbers and strings both, right? It can either have only numbers or only strings. So that's about homogeneity of my arrays, right? So that's where it becomes important. So now, yes, when I say homogeneous, it can have strings as well, right? So to answer the question, if somebody asks you that can arrays have strings or can NumPy work on strings, The answer is yes, it can, right? Because it's a homogeneous class. It can have arrays of only strings. It cannot have arrays of both strings and numbers, but yes, it can have arrays of strings. That is totally possible, right? So now here in arrays, if you want to call about the string functions, there are certain interesting string functions available here. I've listed down few of them like add, multiply, center, capitalize, title, lower, upper, split, strip, join, replace. So to call all of these string functions, right? So you have to use this keyword char. Okay, so it's a superclass basically. So NumPy is my parent. So NumPy has a superclass char, and char has all the functionalities available within. So add, multiply, center, all of these individual functions are basically available within my superclass, which is char. So if you want to call any of these functions from string, you want to call this superclass first, char, and then the functions on top of that. So the functions are the objects of my superclass here. Okay, so char is my wrapper superclass. So just remember that, right? So as I've said, for example, add. So let's talk about how all of these functions work. Durgesh, I don't think it's a relevant question again. So let's stick to our content. So if you have any question from the content, so we can talk about that. Coming back again, so add, right? So what does add do? So basically add is more of a concatenation for me here, okay? So like you remember about the concat function, so we are concatenating multiple words, and we have multiple ways of concatenating things, right? So here in the same way, add is more of a concatenation of my elements in terms of my strings. So all of my individual string elements will get concatenated here based on my the input statements given here. So for example, I have one array here, so which is just a minute, NumPy is not loaded here. Let me just quickly load NumPy. Cool, so I've just loaded that. So now I have things here, so like for example, ABC and DF. So I have two individual string elements, ABC and DEF. I'm gonna concatenate that. So I'm gonna add it. So if you want to add of your string elements here, so we're gonna use the function np.char, which is my superclass, and I have the function add. So I'm gonna call the individual sublets, which is my ABC and DEF, and I'm gonna call it. So it's gonna give me ABC DEF. So basically I'm gonna add up my NumPy functions here. I'm gonna add up my two strings, individual strings, ABC and DEF separately, and gonna give me a joint output. Right. So likewise, I have another output here. So now you can see this. I have a more of a two-dimensional array here. So here earlier I was having one-dimensional array, right? So I have one single element. So ABC is a separate element and DF is a separate element, right? So now I have two elements here, hello and hi in the first array, and then ABC and XYZ in my second basically element here. So can somebody tell me what should be the output here if I'm gonna add the NumPy sublets here? Quickly, if anybody wants to try this. So I have my two elements here, two different elements. So hello and hi in the first one, and ABC and XYZ here. So the important thing to understand is here, if you remember, if you're talking about the indexing also earlier, so we were talking about indexing of my arrays, right? So the position of my array elements is very important. So here, whenever we're gonna add from this point of view, so the first element will always get added to my first element of my other list, right? So here you can see this. The first element is hello, and the second for the other subject, the first element is ABC, right? So hello will get concatenated with ABC here, and likewise hi will get concatenated with XYZ. So this is again very important thing. So indexing does matter here, right? So I cannot just blindly concatenate the other things, right? So we're going to do that. It's going to give me hello ABC and hi XYZ. So I've just given yes, Sandeep and Ranjan very nicely said. So here you can see this. I've just given a small space here before ABC and XYZ. So just to show the gap here. So otherwise, if I would have given this ABC like this and without any space, it would have given hello ABC and hi XYZ is the same thing. So it's one or the other the same thing, Ranjan and Sandeep. So I hope Ranjan, I answered your question for space. So I just gave a small space before ABC and XYZ. So just for the formatting purpose. Cool. So I hope this one is fine. So I have another function here. So another function which you can see this, which is multiply. So multiply is nothing but you're gonna multiply the concatenation here. So, okay, so it's basically multiple concatenations. So it's pretty simple. So here you can see this. So I have my function which is say suppose hello, and in this hello I'm gonna call it through what? Char. Char is again my superclass, and char is having the sublet which is my class object which is multiply. And in this, I have an option of argument. So for example, I have to multiply a particular character by X amount of times, right? So the times is also given as part of an argument. So here you can see this, I'm passing hello. And again, I have a hello ke baad ek simple sa space. So again, just to tell you, Ranjan, so I have added one simple space. So if I'm going to do that, so I'm going to get hello, hello, hello. So because anyway, hello is having a space here. So if we're going to remove this space, I'm going to get hello, hello, hello together. Right, so it's plain simple. That is nothing but it is blindly kind of multiplying the concatenation. Okay, so concatenation to kar hi raha hai, but I mean it's like a multiple concatenation. Cool. नहीं ठीक यार रंजन, I mean it's just like concept पता होना चाहिए यार, ठीक है, इतना कोई टेंशन वाली बात नहीं है. I mean concept पता है तो it's fair enough. I mean I just added this space just to ease out the understanding, or just to ease out the output. I mean it should be properly visible, nothing else. ठीक है, चलो ये आपका 2 हो गया. बेसिकली हमने ऐड और मल्टीप्लाई पढ़ लिया. सिंपल है यार, ऐड और मल्टीप्लाई इवन जब आप स्ट्रिंग में भी करते हो ना, लाइक सिंपल स्ट्रिंग में भी ये बेसिकली सेम चीज कर रहा है यार. आप सिंपल स्ट्रिंग में भी जब आप ऐड करते हो तो ये तो करते हो. अगर हेलो प्लस हाई करते हो, फॉर एग्जांपल अगर आप ऐड फंक्शन करते हो ऑन 2 स्ट्रिंग्स हेलो प्लस हाई, आप नंपाई को भी भूल जाओ. सिंपल सेम चीज यहाँ पे भी रेप्लिकेट हो रही है, बट हियर यू हैव अरेज. दैट्स इट. you're talking in terms of numpy arrays, right? So that's the simple thing, but the logic, the concept is still the same. Okay, so now I have another interesting function here which is called as center. Center interesting here. Center basically padding के लिए use होता है. For example, suppose you have something to some document which you are talking about. For example, suppose you're writing a document which has a header of say something ABC. Okay, and across, I mean on the left, on the right hand side of ABC, you want to add certain characters. For example, you want the output to look like something like this. For example, like this, say. Star star star, and then I'm gonna have say name which is like say ABC, and then I want to have star star star, right? So I want to have something like this. ये तो actually उसमें ले लिया इसने. So 2 ही रखते हैं ना, otherwise वो bold कर देगा उसको. Okay, or else let's do it like this. So like say for example say dollar 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 dollar, then I have ABC, then I have dollar 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 dollar. ठीक है, चलो ठीक है. Anyway, so अगर मैं ऐसे लिखना चाहता हूँ, for example I want some output to be padded, like for example left में भी कुछ चाहिए, right में भी कुछ चाहिए. So it's just like more of formulating your word, right? So in this case मैं क्या करना चाह रहा हूँ, this word is in the center and उसके corresponding right and the left side में I have certain paddings to be filled up, right? So certain paddings. So to add these paddings, I have a function called as center, and it takes 3 arguments. Okay, the first is my array, so basically my word or the string which I'm passing to be padded up, and then uske baad mein width. So width is my number of characters which has to be padded. So for example, here it is 4, and so technically if I give 8, so 4 will go on the left and 4 will go on the right. So it has to be an even number technically, right? So here I have 20 and I have fill character. Fill character means basically I want to pass which character I want to fill. So here I've passed, for example, star, right? So let's see that. For example, suppose I want to print hello, and hello has to be padded up with 20 characters of star. So 10 in the left, 10 in the right. So if I do that, you can see this, the output should be like this. I did not get your question, Ranjan. So what can be the valid use? Okay, what can be the valid use cases for this? Again, yeah, documentation में use होता है. अगर आपको याद होगा, for example, I mean multiple चीजें हैं यार. अगर suppose you're writing a document, right, and you have, and it's more of a documented strings, and it's more if the document is in form of an array. So I mean technical, and आप उस array पे आप कुछ computation कर रहे हो, and maybe and ultimately whenever you're printing something to form of you're dumping it from in a writer, right? So dumping in form of a sentence or a word or a doc file. So you can print a doc file from Python also, right? So you can formulate your outputs here. So it's more of and it's end result, how you're going to see that. It's more of formulating the output. So it depends on the use cases totally. So I mean, technically I have used it for my document writing. So whenever you're dumping your end result, right, at the end. So it's more for that purpose. So you can have your end result. So maybe even for the logging purpose also, you log something, right? So in the loggings also you can add this padding. So it shows a clear distinction that okay, after this there is certain other thing, a certain other section for your logs. So, and then it shows the demarcation, and you can run it in the loop also. So you can, instead of passing in hello, so you can pass the character from a loop. Right, so some sort of I would say demarcation that okay, there is something else. It is an header, right? And then the new topic starts after this. So it's more of a separator between my two different blocks. So you can use it from that perspective. It's more of an identifier, I would say, right? So it's more of that front. Mostly मैंने logging में और document writing में मैंने इसको use करते हुए देखा है. But a good question, Ranjan. Thank you so much. I hope I clarified that point. ठीक है, कैपिटलाइज सिंबल है यार. सो इसमें कुछ भी नहीं है. सो कैपिटलाइज अब मैंने आपको जैसे बताया. सो इट्स वेरी सिंपल. इसमें नथिंग फैंसी हियर. सो वी हैव बीन यूजिंग दिस. कैपिटलाइज क्या करता है? सो इफ यू हैव समथिंग इन अ लोअर केस तो उसको अपर केस में कर देता है. कैपिटलाइज का क्या मतलब है, राइट? सो कैपिटलाइज अगेन आप बोलोगे किस पर्पस यूज होता है? अगेन इट्स मोर फ्रॉम ऑफ डॉक्यूमेंट राइटिंग पर्पस ओनली, राइट? सो इसमें अगेन इफ ये मोर ऑफ कैमल केस करता है, राइट? सो ऑलवेज रिमेंबर, is it gonna uppercase the first letter? Okay, so like for example I have this say hello world, okay, and again I'm gonna call this superclass char first, and after char mera base function which is capitalize, okay, and then I'm gonna capitalize hello world for example. So it's gonna do it in a camel case. So camel case क्या करता है? So मेरा जो first word है that's gonna get capitalized. The first letter of my word that's going to get capitalized. It's more of a sentence, right? So sentence में आप क्या करते हो? जो first letter of your sentence होता है आप उसको सिर्फ capital case में करते हो, right? So that's what it does. Again, अगर आपको पूरे character को upper case में करना है या पूरे character को lower case में करना है तो I have different other functions. I'll be talking about that. But capitalize basically to make your sentence. I mean, it's more of an English sentence writing way of things, right? Cool. So that's about my capitalize function. So that's what hello world does. So that's about my capitalize. The next is title. Again, interesting thing. So title में क्या यार? Title में आपको मैं इसको पहले दिखाता हूँ. It's more of an extension of your capitalize function. So capitalize में आपने देखा कि it is working as a sentence. So अगर आपका sentence है suppose my name is Arpit for example. So वो M को capital करेगा. For example like this. If I write it like this. Say my name is ABC for example, right? So अगर मैं ऐसा करता हूँ, so it's only gonna get capitalized the M of my which is my first word of my sentence which is M. So the only of the first word is getting to be capitalized here, right? But title में क्या करता है? Every word of my sentence का first character. So the first character of every word of my sentence will get capitalized. Okay? It's more of an extension of my कैपिटलाइज फंक्शन. बट अगेन आपको इसका लॉजिकल यूजेज समझना पड़ेगा. इट ऑल डिपेंड्स आप किस तरीके से उसको यूज करना चाहते हो, राइट? सो टाइटल में अगेन फॉर एग्जांपल अगेन सेम चीज है. अगर मेरे पास है हेलो हाउ आर यू फॉर एग्जांपल, राइट? सो आई हैव 4 वर्ड्स हियर. हेलो हाउ आर यू, राइट? सो आई हैव H फ्रॉम हेलो, another H from how, and then A from R, and then Y from you, right? So all of these individual characters from individual words is going to be get capitalized. So I have hello H capitalized here, and then likewise H, again A, again Y. Cool. So that's the difference of capitalize and my title function. So I hope there is no question in that. Likewise, I have 2 more functions available in strings as well, again. So lower and upper, right? So again, very interesting functions. So lower and upper क्या करते हैं? Again, ये extension है. अभी हमने क्या बात किया? Capitalize और title जो है single word, single character from my every word. So the first character of my words, all the words going to be capitalized in title, and single character, the first character from my first word of my entire sentence will get capitalized in capitalize, right? So that's the difference in my capitalize and title. But lower and upper क्या करता है? Every character of my word, so the entire sentence में जितने भी word होंगे, it's going to get changed, right? So they're going to get changed. So अगर आप lower करते हो, for example, suppose I have 2 words hello and world here. And likewise I have say hello. So you can see this entire thing will get lowered. So I have hello and world. So I can see this, the entire word hello and the world is going to get lowercase, right? So you have, this is in uppercase. Likewise, we have single word hello here. So both of these will get lowercase here, right? So the entire characters of my string will get changed. Likewise in upper, so I have my, in this case, I've written in the lowercase. So hello is in lowercase. Likewise, hello world is in lowercase. If I'm going to do that, so it's going to change the entire thing. So all of my strings will get affected here. So that's the difference. So I have two different types of things. The first is whether only my first character will get affected, or I want my entire characters to be affected, right? So I have to choose my functions accordingly. So my superclass is char, and my subclasses are my individual functions basically, right? So remember that. Cool. So now come again. So like this. So I'm gonna comment this, and then okay, let's make it this. Cool. So now split क्या है यार? Split again बहुत important function है. Split generally आपने list में use किया होगा, right? So we have been using again आप for example by default अगर आप split run करते हो, so if you have any string, say suppose my name is Arpit Jain for example, right? And you're passing this string on a split function. So split में अगर आप ये string pass करते हो, तो by default हमेशा split क्या return करता है? एक list return करता है, right? So it always returns you a list of your sub elements. For example, my name is Arpit Jain, so it has 5 characters, right? So my name is Arpit Jain, so I have 5 characters here, right? Oh, no, so my bad, 5 words here, right? So individual words, again separator क्या है इसका? By default वो space separator लेता है. So by default it's a white space which is taking it as separator, but again I can also specify a separator. अब suppose my name is Arpit Jain में space नहीं है, my के बाद एक comma है, my comma name comma is comma Arpit comma Jain, if that is the word, right? So I can specify that. Don't take the default white space which is a blank space as a separator, take comma as a separator, right? So in that case again the splitting will happen for each of the words, but instead of taking space as my separator, in this case it will be taking comma as a separator, right? But again the output will still remain a list with all my separated sub elements of which is my words, right? So by default ये होता है. Same चीज आपके numpy split में भी same चीज होता है, okay? The output is still the same. It is still going to give you a split words of each of my characters, each of my sentence. So I mean words from my sentence. Now for example अभी एक example देखते हैं. Suppose I have my sentence here, hello how are you, right? So I have my same sentence, hello how are you, and I'm gonna apply the split on top of that. So by default, as I've said, split always return a list. So do not forget that, okay? It's again an important question asked in interviews. Split always returns your output in a list fashion, okay? String का output, split का output हमेशा list में होता है, okay? It is always a list of sub elements. So now, if you want to call the third element of my split element, so I can just do print of this 2. क्या हो गया यार? प्रिंट नहीं करते हैं इसको. अभी मैं इसको ये करता हूँ. Okay, right. Okay, so now in this case, sorry, this is an array of lists. So basically in this case, I have to do an indexing based on my list. So अभी मैं उस पे नहीं घुसता हूँ. Let's do it like this. So now for example, again in this case, I have a separator of here comma, right? अभी मैं इसको comment कर देता हूँ. Now look at this. Again in this case, I have my I love my India separated by commas as I was talking about. So I don't have a white space here in this case. So I have a separator as comma, right? So in this case, it is not going to take the default separator of space. It's going to take comma as my separator, right? So in this case, again, the output is in the list fashion, which is my individual words. I love my India. Cool. Very important thing, guys. Always remember, split is going to return the elements by which the separator is being identified. By default, it's space. Okay, so by default, it's space. But again, it can have any separator based on your, whatever the word is. For example, suppose if I'm not going to give separator here. Now look at this. Cool. So can you see this? The output is again an entire sentence. I have not given any separator here. So by default, the separator is space. So can you see this? The output is a single element. So I love my India is a single element. You can see the single quote here, right? So this entire thing is my one element. So it is not separated at anything. So by default, it was looking for a space which it did not find. So now, but in this case, I have a separator of comma, right? So I have to specify depending on the use case again. So split is again, it's working similarly according to your normal string split. Okay, so again, is in the same logic. Likewise, we have split lines. So split is used to split out the words from a sentence, right? But split lines is used to split multiple lines. So if you have a multiple paragraph, right? So if you have a paragraph kind of a scenario, so for this paragraph, if you want to find out individual sentences, right? So one sentence and then the other sentence, then the other sentence. Now you can ask me why do you want to identify these sentences, right? So now after identifying these sentences, I can apply some of the NLTK, I mean some of the natural language processing on top of that. Maybe some stop words, some stemming, lemmatization. I'll be talking about that later. But again, so you depending on the use case, right? So what exactly you're trying to do, what exactly you want, how exactly you want to use this output from, depending on whether it is a split or a split line, right? So it depends on the users totally. So likewise, split lines, so it by default expects some of the boundaries conditions, right? So for example, /n. So /n is the very common whenever you go for the document, I mean the HTML tags of my docs, right? So you can see this, the line, the next line is represented by either /n, /r, or either /r or /n, right? So depending on that case, so we can actually, so what it does, split lines, it looks for these tags, internal codecs basically, right? So if any of my sentences has these, where my separator is for the new line, so it's specifying my new line boundaries. So that's how it's gonna get identified as my split lines. For example, suppose I'm gonna look at this. So I'm gonna just use the first sentence. So I have my first sentence is hello /n, how are you? So basically I have two lines here. So hello is my first line, and then how are you is my second line, right? So I'm gonna use that. So you can see this, the split lines is going to give me two different elements here. The first element is hello, and the second element is how are you. Cool. So that's how it works. So it's more of identifying my individual elements on top of my line. So split is giving me individual words, but split lines is giving me individual lines from a paragraph, right? So again, usage पे depend करता है आप किस तरीके से use करना चाहते हो इसको, but again that's how it works. Cool. Okay, so right. So मैंने एक और example यहाँ पे लिया हुआ है. So I have say a 2D array here. So basically I'm giving as a multiple list है जिसको मैं characters की by characters की तरह use करना चाहता हूँ. So I have my two elements. I am good and hello world. Okay, and I'm gonna use a separator which is by default space separator. So you can see this, it has, the split is gonna use this individual element separately, okay? So it's gonna create me again a two-dimension data here, with two-dimension data output, which is a list again. And is this list may I have the individual elements of separate sub-elements. So I have in the first sub-list, I have three different sub-elements, I, am, and good, which is again separated by a comma, separated by a space here. And likewise, the second element is gonna have hello and world separately. So again that's one of the beautification of my split function. So it's gonna take individual elements separately. So that is the reason why I try to show you this particular example. Cool. So likewise, now again we have another good function, strip. So strip क्या करता है? Strip basically it strips out the specific characters leading or tailing end पे. Right, so I can specify if I want to strip out, if I want to remove any leading or a trailing characters, right? So for example, suppose I have my word as say Arpit Jain, right? So you can see this, I have this Arpit Jain and last me I have a character A, right? So which I don't want to be part of my string, which is a typo maybe, right? So, but unfortunately, so now I'm going to give this A, so which is my strip character A. So now look at the output first. So then I'm going to talk about that. So can you see this? So it's going to look for both the leading and the trailing ends. Okay. So here, and you can see this, I have Arpit ka A also got trimmed and the end mein A also got trimmed. Okay. So, I mean, अगर आपको सिर्फ specifically पता है already कि एक character है which is Jan A, so we can do a directly indexing also. There's no need to do strip. But strip का purpose यही है कि any unwanted characters, any character which you want to strip off from both the leading and the trailing ends, then you're going to use strip basically. Okay, so that's my first example. Second example देखते हैं, इसका interesting है. So now here I'm saying that I want to remove an. Okay. So now technically an to यहाँ पे कहीं भी नहीं है. So I have either n or either a. So a है a r है, right? So a n तो नहीं है, a r है. And in the end here I have I n. A n तो नहीं है, I n है. So इसमें क्या output होगा? Whether my I n will get removed or my a r will get removed. Anybody has any responses to this? Any guesses? What should be my output here if I run this? Strip Arpit Jain, I'm going to give an as my identifier. Quickly guys. Any suggestions? Any guesses? देखो उसमें दिखाता हूँ उसमें क्या होता है. इंटरेस्टिंग आउटपुट है अभी. इसमें क्या होगा? Here basically it's gonna take each of these characters individually. नहीं इसमें राइट आउटपुट सेम ही होगा. बिल्कुल सही बोला आपने वर्षिनी. थैंक यू सो मच. Yeah, the thing is it's gonna take both a or n. Okay, so either a or n. जहां either whether it's in the trailing end or the leading end, wherever these two characters are present, any of these two characters are present, it's gonna get removed. Okay, so that's how strip of my multiple characters works. So I'm gonna pass a n, that means either a or n. इसमें से कोई भी होगा. Any of these, if any of these are present anywhere, is present anywhere, so it's gonna get removed from my the character from my string basically, right? So now again I have another example here. Now look at this. This is interesting again. So instead of passing as my two individual characters a and n, I'm gonna pass it over a list. So I'm gonna pass it in a list, and in this list I have two elements a and n. Now can you tell me what should be the output here, guys? Again, this is one of the very interesting interview questions. So it is more again frequently asked question about the passing it over list or giving me as the top of my elements. Any guesses here? What should my output? Let me show it to you. See this? So now here the output will have actually two elements. Okay, so the first element gonna be treated for a. So either a at the leading or the trailing end. So here I have a here in the leading end, right? So that a got removed. So I have Arpit Jain, and I'm passing n. So the second element is where my n will be trimmed for my both the leading and the trailing positions. Okay, so I'll be having two outputs. The first where the a is treated, and the second is where n is getting treated. Okay, so that's how my strip individual elements look like. Cool, guys. Any questions? Do let me know. Okay. Now I have another good function which is join. Join again same तरीके से काम करता है, like the way we have for normal string joins. आप syntax भी same है, but again here instead of calling it anything over dot join or like space dot join जो भी हम अपने normal strings में करते हैं, here I'm gonna call it over np dot char. So np dot char is my super subclass. I've told you this. So all of my strings functionalities of my NumPy is available under np dot char, right? So that's my superclass. So np.char, and then I'm going to have my elements here. So I'm going to join ABC with the separator. So basically here, which is my colon, right? So now look at this. So I have my ABC here. So this is what I'm saying. So I'm gonna join ABC with the separator colon. So basically here you can see this, for each of my elements ABC got joined with a separator colon, right? Likewise, suppose I have two different elements, right? So I don't have a single element, it's a two-dimensional array for me. So I have two elements here, ABC and DEF, right? For example, and I want ABC to be joined by colon, and I want the second element to be joined by hyphen. So in this case, I can have this. So you can see this. The first character ABC is where is getting joined by colons. This is my first element here, first separator. And the second DEF ka separator kya hai? Hyphen. So here in this case, not colon, it's hyphen. So you can also specify the joining syntaxes or the joining sub identifiers for you depending on your requirements. Again, it purely depends on your use case totally, right? So you can use either hyphen, dollars, hash. So depending again on the use case. So all of these joining processes are totally possible. Cool. I guess the last function we have under the char is replace. So replace is similar, guys. So string.str.replace function, I believe you might already have been doing on in string. So and also we have covered that. So it's again the very similar concept, guys. So similar to the normal string replace. So that's how my numpy char replace also works. So in this case, the syntax still remains the same. So I have it takes 3 arguments basically. The first argument is my array, so array of strings. So that's what I'm going to pass it over. The second is the exact pattern which I want to be replaced. So the second argument would be the current pattern which I want to replace, and the third argument will be the pattern with which I want to replace it with. Right? For example, here. This is my sentence. He's a good boy. He's staying in block B, for example, right? And here I want is to be replaced with was, for example. So this is my entire string array, right? And I want this string array to be in here any pattern which is wherever it is. So is my pattern. So is it's gonna look for the character is as a pattern. So wherever this is, it's gonna remove is with was, right? So you can see this. Once I've run it, so it's actually replacing he is ka was ho gaya, he was a good boy, and again he's staying in block B, so he was staying in block B. So again similar replace function hai jo aapka normal strings mein bhi kaam karta hai. So similar in numpy strings also, it's working as same. Hey Vanna, thank you for joining in. Cool. So ये हमारा string का काम हुआ, ठीक है. अभी हम चलते हैं नेक्स्ट इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक पे, हमारे राउंडिंग फंक्शंस. अब हमारे पास ज्यादा फंक्शंस बचे नहीं है गाइस. राउंडिंग है, इसके बाद आते हैं एक मैथमेटिकल फंक्शंस है जो मैंने लास्ट छोड़ दिया, वो सिंपल है. सो एंड देन एट लास्ट आई एम गोना गिव यू वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग वर्जन np डॉट वेयर, राइट. सो एक कंडीशनल फंक्शन भी है numpy के अंदर वेयर. सो जनरली आपका इफ स्टेटमेंट होता है, राइट. सो इफ स्टेटमेंट, इफ में जो आप काम करते हो, if ka there's an alternative to if in numpy which is called as np.where. So there's a where function also. That's one of the very important functions in numpy, so I'll be talking about that at the very last. So I've kept it for last, but again I'll be quickly covering the other 2 topics also. So rounding function, the mathematical functions, so there's only 2 remaining functions. ठीक है. राउंडिंग में क्या है गाइस? राउंड में बेसिकली अब ये डेसिमल राउंडिंग्स है. सो आपको राउंडिंग तो पता ही है. सो राउंडिंग आप कैसे करते हो? सो राउंडिंग इफ एनी डेसिमल इज देयर, राइट. सो यू राउंड आउट टू द नियरेस्ट इंटीजर, or you round to the nearest closest number of decimals you want to round it to, right. So it depends what exactly you want to. So exactly rounding function be same hai, right. So rounding, so you are rounding off your float to an integer, or a float with multiple I would say decimal places to certain fixed decimal places. So 8 decimal places to 2 decimal places or 3 decimal places, right. So that's how rounding works, right. So 3 major functions available in rounding: round, floor and seal. Okay, flooring and sealing. ये again flooring sealing simple concept है जो आपका other packages में भी, math में भी available है, और भी even base Python में भी available है flooring sealing. So similar function है floor seal. I'll be talking about that. Around भी है आपका. Around again interesting functions में आप decimal spaces दे सकते हो. So let's start with the first function, around. Okay. So as you can see here, so it takes 2 arguments. So a is my basically the number, or this number could either be a float or maybe multiple digits का भी float हो सकता है, कोई issue नहीं है उसमें. And then I have to specify the decimal position. So decimal basically, again decimal क्या है? The number of positions to round. So basically exact number of position to be rounded as, right. If I do not give anything, default is 0. So it's gonna return you an integer, right. So it's gonna return you an integer if I don't give anything, right. So now look at the functions. Cool. So default is 0. So now here, so I have my function 1.0, 5.55, 1, 2, 3. And then I have 0.56, I have 25.532, right. So now I'm gonna give me सबसे पहले हम सिंपल रन करते हैं, जिसमें हमने सिर्फ अराउंड में डेटा पास किया है, my number of elements. So my individual words which I want to round off to, right? And जिसमें मैंने decimal pass नहीं किया, right? I have not passed any other argument. I have just passed my elements, my simple individual elements here, right? And इसमें मैंने decimals pass नहीं किया. So default I've told you it'll take to 0. So basically वो decimal 0 लेगा, मतलब सिर्फ it'll only take the integer value. So decimal के बाद कुछ भी नहीं लेगा. So it'll round off to the 0th decimal point, right? So that's what it will round it off to. For example, here 1.0 है, so that's got converted to 1. You can see this, so it is now converted to 1. 5.55. So here 5.55 क्या है? 5.5 से कुछ भी ज़्यादा होगा is going to be rounded off to the nearest integer, which is 6. So the output is 6 here, right? So if it would have been 5.49, then in that case it would have given 5. Likewise, I have 0.567 is going to be rounded off as 1, and 25.532. So again, 0.50 से ज़्यादा है, so it's 532 is going to round it off to 26. So you can see this, it is rounding off to the nearest integer, okay, nearest integer to 0th decimal point. Also, I can specify the decimal here. You have an option of decimal as 1. So I've given decimals as 1, right? So if I'm going to give that, so it's going to use like this. For example, earlier 5.55 with decimal 0, it got rounded up to 6, but in this case, it got rounded up to 5.6. So likewise, I have 0.567 that got rounded up to 1 for decimal 0 and 0.6 in the case of decimal 1, right? So it's very simple, simple logic, right? So I have my np.around working like that. So I have another function np.floor, right? Floor क्या है? Floor and ceiling, ये भी important चीजें समझने के लिए. So floor and ceiling. Floor क्या करता है? This returns the largest integer but not greater than the input parameter. Okay, so the largest integer which is lesser than my input parameter. So for example, suppose here, now look at this output. Output से ज़्यादा better समझ में आएगा. So I have minus 1.7. So minus 1.7 से कम होना चाहिए by default. Any integer which is nearest to minus 1.7 and lower to minus 1.7. So nearest integer क्या है? Minus 1 and minus 2 है, right? Minus 1 is greater than minus 1.7, right? But minus 2 is lower than minus 1.7, correct? So that is the only reason this minus 1.7 in the flooring got reduced to minus 2. Nearest integer which is lower than my input value. That's what flooring does, okay? So similarly 1.5 का 1 हो जाएगा, minus 0.2 का minus 1 हो जाएगा. Minus 0.2 का do not forget 0 नहीं होगा because 0 बड़ा है minus 0. 0 is greater than minus 0.2, right? So it will always go to the lower closest integer value. So minus 0.2 will get rounded off to minus 1. Likewise 0.6 in this case got rounded off to 0, not 1, okay? Because 0 is lower than 0.6. Likewise 10 का तो 10 ही रह गया. ठीक है? So that's how flooring works. Likewise on the ceiling, in this case it returns to the look at this, ceiling of an input value where the ceiling of the scalar x is the smallest integer such that I is greater than x. Now I'll tell you this is more of the opposite of my flooring. So in this case जो मैंने बताया था आपको nearest integer lower होगा for floor, इसमें nearest integer वो greater होगा. So greater than the input variable but the first integer greater than my input variable. So minus 1.7 का nearest integers क्या है? Minus 1 है और minus 2 है. So for me the lower one is minus 2, that means flooring में I'll get minus 2, but I give ceiling I'll get minus 1. So the closest integer more than my input value. So that's what ceiling does. So opposite of my flooring, right? So similarly 1.5 का 2 हो जाएगा, minus 0.2 का 0 हो जाएगा, and 0.6 का 1 हो जाएगा, 10 का तो 10 रह जाएगा. Cool. So ये मेरा rounding of functions है. So I have a round जिसमें हम decimals में round off करते हैं. Then I have ceiling and then I have flooring. Cool. Anybody has any questions in this? Guys, just a quick thumbs up or a yes or no in the chat. So if anybody has any questions, I hope this is anyway pretty simple, so straightforward. I don't see much challenges here. But again, if anybody has any questions, definitely do let me know in the chat, right? So I'm gonna cover that again. This is the last set of functions, guys. So arithmetic functions. So I have very simple ones. So That is the reason why I did not take in the very beginning. So it's very simple functions. Add, subtract, multiply, divide, reciprocal, power, mod. So ये basic mathematical functions हैं जो आप किसी भी तरीके से करते हो, right? So same function. So इसका logic भी same है. It's almost the working principle is similar. But yeah, so we have to just understand how the addition and how other arithmetic functions are happening inside my NumPy arrays, right? So because I have n dimensions arrays, right? So available in NumPy. So yeah, so how my individual elements are behaving in terms of my arithmetic functions. That's what we have to look at. है ना? So basic है. अभी मैंने initially में यहाँ पर आपका 4 use किया है. So I have add, subtract, multiply, divide. So simple है. 1 plus 1, 1 minus 1, 1 cross 1, 1 divide by 1. Simple. Same add, multiply, subtract, divide functions हैं. But arrays में कैसे काम करता है? Let's look at that. So I'm gonna run it. So I'm gonna run it one by like this. So I've already prepared it. So for example, I have created an array. So I've used the function arrange. So arrange आपको पता है. So how does it do? So and I've reshaped it to 3 cross 3. So basically I've given 3 cross 3 array where I have 3 rows and 3 columns, and data type is float, and I have used n9 characters. So basically 0 से start होके 8 तक जाएगा. So this is my array here, right? So it's my n dimension array. So I have 3 cross 3 का array here. So elements are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8. Okay. So this is my A. Cool. This is how my A is. Now I'm giving B. So B is my 10 cross 10 cross 10. So I'm 10, 10, 10. So I'm just the basic matrix 1 cross 3 ka shape hai. So I have 10, 10, 10 ka array here, right? So this is my A and B. So now I'm adding up A and B. So how I'm going to do that? NP dot add, simple hai, and I'm going to give A comma B. So now I'm adding 10, 10, 10 on 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8. Quickly guys, anybody has any understanding to this? How the adding will work here? What will be my output? Quickly, just take 2 minutes, just take a minute and just let me know what the output would be here. We have already covered this before. Let me show it to you. So see, that's how it works. So you remembered about the broadcasting, right? So if my 2 arrays are getting mathematically formulated on any of these functions, right? So then where the broadcasting happens. So broadcasting में क्या होता है? My lower dimension array get broadcasted over my higher dimension array. So मेरा lower dimension इसमें क्या है? 10, 10, 10 है, right? So in this case, the lower dimension array जो कि 10, 10, 10 है is getting broadcasted over my higher dimension array, which is 3 cross 3 का array, and the elements are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8. So 10, 10 then will get added to each of my individual sub arrays. So 0, 1, 2 पे add हो जाएगा 10, 10, 10, so 10, 11, 12 हो गया. Likewise 3, 4, 5 पे add हो जाएगा 10, 10, 10, so मेरा 13, 14, 15 हो गया. Likewise here 16, 17, 18. Right? So that's how my broadcasting of my arrays work. So again, very beautiful concept of array. So if my 2 arrays are of different dimensions, so then in that case, and if you're going to perform any arithmetic operation on top of these 2 different dimension arrays, then the smaller dimensional array will get broadcasted over my higher dimensional array. So always remember that, right? So that's how my adding works. Likewise, that's how my subtracting will also work, right? So now 10, 10, 10 will get subtracted from each of my elements also in this case. So subtracting or the subtract of my 2 arrays, the output would be like, so 10 is getting 0 is getting subtracted by 10. So 0 minus 10 is minus 10 because I've written A first here, right? So from A, the B is getting subtracted. So 0 minus 10. Likewise 1 minus 10, 2 minus 10. So I have minus 10, minus 9, minus 8. Likewise minus 7, minus 6, minus 5 and minus 4, minus 3, minus 2 here. That's the subtraction of works. Again, the broadcasting is happening here, right? Likewise, that's how my multiplication also works. Very simple, guys. So 0, 1, 2 pe 0 cross 10. So the output will be 0. 1 cross 10, the output will be 10. 2 cross 10, my output will be 20. So likewise, for each of my elements, 8 cross 10, that will be 80. So likewise, again my smaller dimensional array is getting broadcasted over my higher dimensional array. Similarly, I have the same thing available under my divide also. Okay, so can you see this? The basic functionality, which is my add, subtract, multiply and divide, is working similarly as compared to my broadcasting here, right? So each of my smaller dimensional array ka elements is getting added, multiplied, subtracted or divided by individual sub-elements of my higher dimensional array. So that's where my broadcasting works. Cool, simple hai. Isme though I think there should not be any issue. Now let's come back to the other function, which is reciprocal. So reciprocal क्या होता है? Cool. So basically क्या है? This function returns the reciprocal of your argument, right? Element wise, yes. So reciprocal क्या होता है? Suppose अगर 1 है तो 1, suppose 10 है तो it will be like 1 by 10. Reciprocal क्या होता है? Reverse, like numerator becomes denominator and denominator becomes numerator, right? So that's how it works. So that now let's look at that. So for example, so now look at this. For example, so 0.25 will become 1 by 0.25, and 1 by 0.25 is 4. Then I have 1.33, so it's like 1 by 1.33, so the output is like 0.751. Then I have 1 by 1 is again 1. So 0, again 1 by 0 क्या होता है? वो infinity होता है. So basically any value which is, the result is always 0, and any value which is less than that, so it will not give you any result, it's going to give you infinity. So 1 by 0 तो कुछ नहीं होगा, infinity होगा, right? So it's going to give you infinity here. And 100, so 1 by 100 is 0.01. So basically reciprocal of my individual elements. So reciprocal here, 1 by of that element, right? So that's how reciprocal works. So a simple reciprocal function है जो maths में भी हमने पढ़ा होगा. So the same element wise operation will be happening for each of my sub elements or for reciprocals. Cool. Power भी simple है guys. Power क्या होता है इसमें? आप देखोगे this function treats elements in the first input array as base and returns it to the raise to the power of my corresponding element in the second input array. For example here, now look at this. So for each of my elements, I am passing it here and raised to the power 2. So basically here A is my elements, so 10, 100 and 1000, and now I'm passing it over the power of 2. So basically 10 ka power 2. So 10, what is 10 to the power 2 is 100. 10 cross 10. Likewise 100 to the power 2, 100 cross 100, so it's 10,000, right? Likewise 1000 cross 1000 ka power 2, so that is like 1000 cross 1000, right? So you have like maybe 10 lakhs, right? So that's how it works. So that's plain simple. So it's like again you're doing some power on top of my elements, and also you're specifying the base and also the to the power you want to raise the element to, right? So that's how power also works. Mod be simple here. So mod basically क्या करता है? Remainder of my division, right? So here modulus. So mod is nothing but modulus. So it's more of a remainder of my division. So it's more of that front. So again अगर आपका division है तो 2 elements चाहिए होगा, because again आप simple एक single element का तो modulus निकाल नहीं सकते. So there should be a remainder होना चाहिए, तो there should be a dividend and a quotient, right? So dividend and a divisor. Sorry. So here, for example, I have my element A, which is an array of 3 elements, 10, 20, 30, and I have my another element B, which is 3, 5, 7. So here I'm doing the modulus of A and B. So basically A is divided by 3, A is divided by B, and the remainder of it. So this is what I want to have. So that's my modulus. So basically 10 will be divided by 3, so modulus will be 1, right? So because 3 cross 3 is 9, so that's the maximum divisor it can have. So remainder is 1. So likewise for 20 and 5, 0. So there, because 5 4 times is 20, the remainder is 0. And 7 4 30, 7 4s are 28. So I have 2 as a remainder here. So the modulus output is 102. Right. So very base functions of my each of my things. So here I have a reciprocal, power, mod. Right. It's very simple functions. Okay. So I think I missed out this. Cool, let's cover this also. So let's finish all of these functions. So I have I think another last set of functions, statistical functions. Very simple function again, guys. Simple hai. Mean, median, mode, standard deviation, variance, percentile, point to point. So I'll just talk about that in a very smaller fashion. Okay, so I have 2 interesting functions available here, a min and a max. Okay, So basically क्या है यार, इसमें कुछ नहीं होता है. It basically returns the minimum and the maximum from the elements. Okay, so a min and a max से confuse नहीं होना है. It's basically nothing but min और max ही है वो, ठीक है. So a min and a max basically returns the minimum and the maximum of my elements. And minimum and maximum में क्या है? So here now look at this. For example, so I'm gonna print it one by one. Okay, so now look at this. So I have my array here, 375, 843 and 249. So I have this 375, 843 and 249. Okay, so now I'm gonna give the a min of a, and I'm given the element 1. So basically, so this is my output. Right now look at this. So now I'm saying that for okay, so I hope I'm making, so now for this basically I'm saying that I want for each of my individual different rows, I want what exactly is my minimum element. So for my 375, my minimum is 3, is coming here. For 843, my minimum is 3 again, it's coming here. And for 249, my minimum is 2, which is coming here. And if I'm give a min as 0, so basically 0th axis, which is my column. So in this case, I'm gonna say that I have 3, 8 and 2 in this axis for the 0th axis. So I'm going to say that 2 is the minimum. That's what is coming here, 2. And here for the second, for 7, 4 and 4. So again, the minimum is anyway 4. And then for the third, 5, 3 and 9, my minimum is 3. So this is my output here. So I can specify the axis on which I want the minimum as. So you can see this, I have an argument of axis. So basically 0 and 1, I can specify that. Likewise, max also I can specify, right? So the max also on top of that. Yeah, so if I don't give any axis, so it by default it'll take all the elements. So a max means max of all the elements, right? So here the max is 9. You can see this. So output is 9. So I'm not specifying any axis. So by default take all the elements come in and all the elements come max. And if I want it based on my rows or particular axis, I can specify the axis also. So that's the flexibility I have here. So that's my a min and a max. So PTP is again, okay, so next is percentile. So percentile is also quite easy, guys. So percentile is nothing but my, the percentile number of my, you know the difference between percent and the percentile, right? So it's basically a percentile value of my, that particular array. So for example, suppose I have an array here, so which is like this. Now look at this. So I have my array here, so 30, 40 and 30, 40, 70. 80, 20, 10, and then I have 50, 90, 60, right? So now I'm gonna specify that I want the percentile of this array A, and I want the 50th percentile. So all the elements 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 90. So if I plot it in a horizontal, in an increment fashion, so what is the element at the 50th percentile position? That element is 50. Is coming here. Likewise, I can also specify for individual axes. So for this 30, 70, 30, 40 and 70, what is my 50th percentile elements, which is my 40 here. And for this it is 20, and for the third is 60, right? And likewise, I can also specify axis as 0. So between 30, 80 and 50, what is my 50th percentile is 50. For 40, 20 and 90 is 40. For 70, 10 and 60 is definitely going to be 60, right? So again, it totally depends what axis I want the information at. So it's more of a percentile of my values, right? So percentile, again, an important function. Median, mean, simple है. Same function है, guys. I can have the median, पूरा का median बोल सकता हूँ, like a median of my entire array, like all the elements, or median or a mean of a particular axis, like a 1 axis or a 0th axis, still possible. Again, the same thing on run again. So you can see this. So this is my entire array, 30, 65, 70, 8, 80, 95, 10, and I have 50, 90, 60, right? So I can specify median and the means. So I have axis as 0 and axis as 1. So I can, if I won't give any axis, so I can have the median of the entire specimens here. So you can see this for this entire element list. The median is 65. So for the entire, if I don't give any axis, it takes the median of my entire elements. And also I can have specific axis wise medians and the means that I was talking about. So axis wise is like 50, 90 and 60. So likewise, for example, mean. So mean of my entire element here, and also mean at particular axes also, it's fine, right? So simple things, again, very simpler way. So I can have the standard deviation or the variance also. So if I have an array likewise, so I can also calculate the standard deviation. So 1, 2, 3, 4 ka standard deviation is by the formula is 1.11 and the variance is 1.25. Still possible. So very important mathematical statistical functions, I would say, also available in NumPy. Cool. So at last, as I was talking about, so we have very interesting function available here is Numpy Dot Where, right? Where kya karta hai? Where is basically an alternative to my if condition. So basically what it does, if you have a certain condition, so for example, which you want to specify as, so if that condition is true, then if you want to take certain action on, right? So for example, suppose this, so numpy dot where, so where it follows by the condition, right? So where, for example, now look at this, I'm gonna just run it like this. So I have my elements here, so I have my I've used arrange and 3 cross 3 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, right? Now I have given np dot where x is greater than 3, so definitely my elements where x is greater than 3, right? So now look at this. So this is where my elements are, and it's gonna flatten out. So definitely it's gonna give me a single 1D array. So here my elements would be 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, which is greater than 3. So it's basically evaluating an if condition and then giving me the output. So it's evaluating a condition. So you're gonna pass a condition on top of my where. So where is nothing but a clause or a condition. If that holds true, that then the output will be given, right? So that's how where works. So again a very interesting function. It's most frequently used in place. So whenever you have NP NumPy arrays and you have certain conditions to evaluate from, and then you want to perform certain actions on top of that evaluated result. So you have this result y, right? And then you can do something on this y, right? So you can evaluate a condition and then do something on this y. So that's how it works. Cool. So with this, I think we can wind up for the day, guys. If anybody has any questions, do let me know. So we have covered a pretty good a number of functions today. I don't think we have pretty much left. So okay, no, I think we have something more. Okay, I'm really sorry. So let's quickly cover these 3 functions. Okay, I think this is the last set. So we're gonna let's cover that. Let's not leave it for tomorrow. Anyway, so we're gonna have a quick closure tomorrow on NumPy. Yeah, so just allow me maybe 2 more minutes. I'll cover this copy types also. Yeah, so again, interesting things. So I have 3 different type of copies also available in NumPy, okay? Like for example, no copy, shallow copy, or a deep copy, right? So how exactly these are different, I'll be talking about that. So no copy is basically identified by ID. So ID function is used to do a no copy, right? Shallow copy is basically view. So you're creating a temporary view of that element or a variable. And deep copy is where you're using the function copy. So you are actually copying and storing it as a variable ID, right? So now what is ID function? Okay. So it's basically a simple assignment which do not make a copy of an array object, right? So here you're not making any copy of your object. Instead, it uses the same ID of the original array to access. It's actually working as a pointer, right? So in a pointer, like in C, you have a pointers, right? It just gives you a short. Like for example, in desktop, you're creating a shortcut on your desktop, right? It is just creating an icon. It is not actually copying your data. It is just giving you a hyperlink for that, right? It's more of a pointer. So that's how ID works. It is not actually copying any data. So if you're going to make any changes to original, right, it's going to make changes in your ID also. So basically it's just a pointer to your original variable. Now look at this, how it works. So now for example, I have this arrange done. So now look at this. So I have this arrange, so which is like 6, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And I have created an ID of A. So if I do ID of A, it is giving you a random prolific number. It's like more of a identifier or a pointer for that, right? Now what it does, I just use B as A, which is again, and then B is nothing but just again a more of a same variable. B is again a same variable. And I'm gonna give an ID to B. You can see this, the same element is being referred. The same pointer is being referred here. The numbers are same, you can see this, right? So exactly the same elements are being referred here. Now I'm gonna call I'm going to change the shape of my B. So now the shape of my B is like changed from 1 cross 6 to 3 cross 2, right? So now in this case, you can see this, I have my elements like 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5. I'm going to print the shape of B. And likewise, if I also check the print the shape of A, by default, the A will also get changed similarly. So I have not changed A, right? But can you see this? Because A was the pointer of my B, A was an ID of my B, you can see this, the ID of my B. Likewise, it has, if I make a change in B, by default, the A will also get changed. So it's just a pointer, okay? It's just a reference for my original variable. Here, there's no practical copy of my data is happening, rather it's more of a pointer from my original variable. So any change in my original variable will also make a change in my variable, in my pointer variable also. Okay, so that's where my no copy or ID function works. Okay, the second is a view or a shallow copy, right? So here in this case, a new array object that looks at the same data of the original array is what it is getting created. So unlike in the earlier case, the change in the dimension of the new array does not change the dimension of my original. Okay, so in this case, the temporary view of my variable is created. It's not a pointer, okay? It's more of a SQL view where the output will only will stay alive till the runtime, right? So it's you're not actually using any memory here, not storing into a RAM, not storing into your storage. It's more of a view for your temporary run, right? It's just creating a temporary run for you. But in this case, if you make any changes to your original variable, the view the copied variable will not get changed. Okay, and again the data will remain the same. It's the original one. Now look at the difference here. Same thing. I've created the arrange function 6. Shape is 3 cross 2. Right. Now I've created the B, which is a view of my A. Okay. Now you can see this here. The B is my view of my A. Okay. And also now that technically you can see this here, if I'm gonna view the IDs of my A and B, so A is my original ID, right? So A is my basically original element and B is my different element. So in this case, can you see this? The IDs are different. So basically they are referring to different pointers, okay? They're not the similar pointers. Now in this case, if I make a change to shape of my B, so I'm from 3 cross 2, I've made it to 2 cross 3. So now this is my original B. But if I call A, the A is still the same. A is not changed. Okay. So that's how my temporary or a shallow copy works. So here again, I'm not storing it anywhere. I'm just using it for the runtime purpose. The changes to my original variable will not have any change to my pointer variable or a view variable here. Right. So this is how my shallow copy works. Right. So that's how you can see this. The IDs are also different. Pointers are different basically here. Cool. So likewise, I have the last, which is a deep copy, right? So you're actually copying it, right? So you're making a separate copy, which you can actually refer it later, which you can use it to your variable. And I mean, yeah, definitely it does not really share with any original variable. It's a new array altogether, right? So it's a new variable altogether, which you can use it later for your codes also, right? So for example, look at this. So I have my variable here 10, 10, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So same thing. I've created a copy of my variable A, which is a B, so which is a deep copy. So the same elements of my A is copied in B and it is not referring to it as a pointer, it's a separate new variable altogether, right? So can you see this? The B is still again the same. Now I made changes into my A. So I've just replaced the element 10, first element of my 10 to 100. So I've just did that. Now I can see this. Now my B has changed. I have my element 100 here, but A remains unchanged. So because A is still referring to my original version, right? And A is a different variable altogether. So we have actually copied the entire content of my elements here, right? So that's how the deep copy works. So that's how, guys, so that's how my different copies behave in my NumPy. So I have 3 different types of copies. No copy, shallow copy or deep copy. So as I said, no copy may simple, I have an ID generation. So it's just a pointer from my individual variable. No relation to my data copying. Shallow copying mein we are copying the data. It's a temporary variable to the runtime. Okay, so it's not a different variable altogether. It's just a temporary different pointer to my original variable. Again, any changes to my original will not have an impact to my view copied variable. Deep copy mein to you are actually creating a new variable altogether and you're storing it, right? So it's like you're actually storing the entire content. Cool. With this, guys, we are pretty much done with NumPy. It was pretty exhaustive one, and we have like n number of list of variables. But again, it was important to cover it. So I believe with this, we are pretty much done with our NumPy tutorial. So I know we had a lot of things to we covered a lot of things in NumPy. So tomorrow is our recap and a refresher and a conclusion session on NumPy. So I'm gonna just quickly gonna give you a recap of all the functions available in the NumPy. I'm gonna close the NumPy tomorrow, right? And from day after tomorrow, as I've said, so we're gonna start the Python for data science series. So that is for natural language processing. Cool. So with this, I'm pretty much done for the day, guys. Any questions, anything which you want to talk about, please put your question in the chat. Or else, if you're good, so then we can wrap up for the day. So I wish you a good evening and happy learning. Do join us tomorrow in the same time, 9 p.m. So we're going to have a conclusion on NumPy. And then day after tomorrow, we're going to do the natural language processing. Cool. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for being patient, and I give you a good evening. Okay, so Sandeep has a question. What kind of NumPy questions are asked in interviews? Okay, so it's more of the questions which we discussed over our pointers. Like, for example, I talked about my character functions, like strip functions I was talking about, right? Strip. If you give two different strips at the end for my trimming purpose, if you give it in two different elements of a list, right? So these are the very small concepts. These are the very conceptual questions, right? So the functions which I covered, like for example, I was talking about the indexing, right? You remember about ellipsis. So ellipsis indexing, and then the hyperledger indexing of my individual elements. So it's like two multi-dimensional indexing of my arrays. So these type of questions are being asked. So it's more of a conceptual question. So they will not ask you, tell me the difference between this function or that function. It's not like that. It's more of an application of that function. That is the reason why I have prepared this tutorial where I have given you the examples also, right? So they will ask you in terms of how you're going to implement that function. So for example, like indexing is very frequently asked questions, and the strip and strip lines may, again, we have multiple patterns given there. Replace functions is also being asked. It's more of a individual smaller concepts based on the functions which we have learned in our tutorial are generally asked in the interviews. Right, Sandeep? But a good question. Anything else, guys? Cool. Great. Thank you so much, guys. Then I'm going to give your evening back. Happy learning, and see you tomorrow at same time, 9 p.m. Thank you so much and happy learning. Bye-bye.